Evening, everyone, to you in India. My name is Mr. Jacob Keeley, and I'm joined by my co-host, Abby Swanson. Today, we're joined by two panelists, which is a wonderful thing. One of them is going to have to dip off a little bit early, but that's okay. But I'm going to allow those two panelists to introduce themselves. Those are Sheila Baylor and Dr. Shuvra Das. Sheila, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I would like to, but I'd first like to start by thanking everyone. And I would like to thank Dr. Das for joining us today. And Dr. Das has worked for over 20 years helping international students, supporting them, teaching them at University of Detroit Mercy. Wonderful stories that we've heard over the years from Dr. Das, and he can share a few of those. Jacob Keeley is a wonderful asset to our team. And Jacob actually worked with over 1,700 students last year alone in India. So Jacob is a very popular guy in India, and all the students love him, and we're just so grateful for Jacob. Abby Swanson is managing all the programs. So all of the hard work that goes into this program for University of Detroit Mercy, this entire giant mobility program that this is turning into, you can thank Abby for all of that hard work. So she'll describe more about what she's doing in the program and the details of the program. My name is Sheila Bauer. I come from a family that has started many companies. One of the companies our family has started is the largest technology company in Michigan. And my father was inducted into the Automotive Hall of Fame last year. In 2015, Ratan Tata from India was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And just released this week, we have another Indian founder, Vivek Sehgal, who runs and founded a company with his mother called Mother Son. The company is one of the largest in the world auto component manufacturers for the automotive industry with over 180,000 employees. Wonderful culture. So we're very proud to be able, as the Automotive Hall of Fame, I'm actually on the board of the International Automotive Hall of Fame. And what led us to want to create this program is there is such a demand in anything that moves, in the companies that create things that move. So that would also include Google, that includes Tesla, that includes great companies like Tata Automotive and Mother Son, the company my family founded, Gentex, and many other suppliers. In fact, the largest manufacturing supplier base in the United States is surrounding the automotive industry. There are 300,000 open positions in mobility or the automotive sector alone, and they really touch every possible profession you could think of, whether that's accounting or engineering, whether that's IT or any type of human resource, business, you name it. These companies really cover that. So I'm just very pleased to bring this program to you. This is our first year offering it. We're keeping it small and exclusive. And then over the years, we will be growing this program to be quite large. We anticipate the program will be around 1,000 students per summer coming to the east side of the state for this program. So we're very, very pleased and proud to be working with the University of Detroit Mercy, with the College for Creative Studies, and several other universities who also want to be a part of this. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it back to Jacob, where he can introduce Dr. Das. And I am going to be jumping off because I have a meeting with some other parents too. So anyway, it's a pleasure to meet you, but any question that needs to be answered can be answered by this wonderful team. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sheila. And jumping back over here to Dr. Das, as Sheila had just mentioned, Dr. Das is one of probably our leading professor on this program. He's a professor at University of Detroit Mercy, and I would like to give him the floor to introduce himself and his position and to tell us why he began teaching at UDM.
Thank you, Jacob. And thank you, Abby. And I'm really excited to be part of this panel, and welcome to all the listeners in India, and good evening. I know it's early morning or fairly early in the morning here, and it's in the evening time in India. And to begin my journey, because I'm originally from India, it makes sense for all of you to kind of listen where my journey started from, because you can probably associate a little more. I grew up in a family, of engineering professionals, I would say, because my ancestors were not actually engineering degree holders. But my grandfather would make machines out of, spare parts, and we had an engineering business in the family. So that's the kind of family I grew up in Kolkata, which is in the eastern part of India. And I always felt that engineering was my calling, just because I was growing up in those circumstances. And then I went to my undergraduate program at Indian Institute of Technology in Kharagpur, which is about 116 kilometers from Calcutta. And after graduating, I came to the United States as a graduate student. And then, one thing led to another. And I have been at Detroit Mercy as a faculty member for, this is my 30th year. So I joined as a junior faculty, and then, you go through the process of becoming a senior faculty. And now essentially I'm an old man in the department. So during this process, I've had the opportunity to not only work with thousands of students, both undergraduate, graduate, PhD, but I also served for many years in the administration. So, I was associate dean in the College of Engineering and Science for 6 years. I was the department chair for many years, and then over the last 15 years, I was in international student recruitment. So I was the director for international programs for the college. And so I have had a lot of experience working, particularly with students in India because of my background, but also with, we had a long-running program with many Chinese universities. So I've been to China and quite familiar with their education system. In fact, right now, one of my classes, I have about, 15 Chinese students along with domestic students who are taking the same class, but who are, the Chinese students are coming through that program right now. So, for a long time, I have had experience working with not only domestic students, but also with international students. And I also teach classes, at the freshman level, which is, freshman is the first year level. We call it freshman in US, and up to the highest level of graduate students. So from my personal growth perspective, I found that fascinating because I have inherently learned how to work with students who are on campus for the first time and what are the issues that are going on in their lives, as well as mature students who are sometimes or often working professionals, and other times they are international students. So that is a little bit about my background and my experience. And I would strongly encourage, as I move on to other topics, for folks on the line to ask questions, because through questions you will find out a lot more than what I would just say, in my presentation. So a little bit about Detroit Mercy and why our university is unique. There are plenty of excellent universities in the U.S. There are plenty of excellent universities and programs in even in the state of Michigan. What makes us special? One of the most important things and one of the and critical things for particularly undergraduate students, and even more so for international students, is the issue of personal attention. And if I point out to particularly students and parents in India, you'll be able to associate, because in India there is a culture, and I don't know what the individuals on this presentation do, but there is a culture of students in high schools getting extra help, like tutorial places or tutors outside of school. So the parents would hire educated young people or old people who would personally coach their students. This, those who can afford to do that. This culture is prevalent. I know that, in all parts of India. And if you step back and think about why that is done, that is to parents realize that students need the personal attention. It's like the one-on-one help, and they try to get the best person to help them. Okay, I'll pause a little bit for people to answer the poll.
Oh, you are good. You
Okay,
can
so
break
I can continue. Okay, I think Indian parents and students value this personal attention or the one-on-one hand holding a lot. And it is extremely beneficial because when students are in a large classroom, then you don't necessarily get that kind of attention. And that brings me to the culture at Detroit Mercy, or our university. We are our classrooms are very small, okay, and we particularly take pride in the fact that we are able to spend one-on-one time with the students. So the students, not only in the classroom, I'm aware of all the students, there's many cases, their backgrounds, where they're coming from, what is going on in their family, and as well as when they need the help, to set aside time to address that need. And both in person as well as in these days electronically. I was teaching last night till 8 o'clock in the evening, because that's how my class was at that time. And at the end of the class, when I was about to leave, one of the students comes and, there's a simulation project he's working on, and he has some problems. And I couldn't fix the problem at that time. I told him, why don't you send me this file? I came home, had my dinner. I looked at his problem, in a little more relaxed fashion. I sent him the answer. This was at 9:30 at night. He replied. We had email exchanges, and his problem was resolved. And I'm not trying to, say that I'm doing something special. What I'm actually trying to convey is that this is the culture at University of Detroit Mercy. All my colleagues treat their students in this similar fashion. And that is, that I have always felt is something that is missing in conversation when people are looking for places to go and study. And as of last year, there is a new ranking system that Wall Street Journal has come up with, and which actually takes into account outcomes, like how much the student is being helped, what is the retention rate. Retention rate is how many students are continuing in the program and finishing the program. And what are the outcomes, like are they getting jobs after finishing the program or going to graduate school. So in that particular ranking, or that particular set of ranking, which is completely targeted towards the benefit of the students, okay. So in that ranking, our program or our university was ranked second in the state and 52nd in the country. 52nd in the country and second in the state. And this is the university, entire university. I'm not talking about engineering, just the engineering program. It is the entire university. And that is an extremely, important point of pride for us, because we feel that finally something that our students who go through the program value and their parents value, but the outside world doesn't get to know. And this is an external source which is actually acknowledging something like that. So we are very excited about that. And that is the message I want to convey to parents, particularly parents who are far away, excuse me, and students who are international, who will come a long distance to study, is the kind of attention they will get. Okay. So let me talk a little. Go ahead. Were you going to ask something, Jacob?
Yeah, real quick. So if I'm looking at it and I'm a student coming over for this program, what is my classroom experience going to be like that's different with a small classroom compared
Yes.
to something like a lecture hall with 400 students? Am I still going to be lectured, reading out of my textbook, going back to my dorm room, and we're going to get that kind of education, just less students? Or how does that go about?
No, that is an excellent question, and that brings me to how we actually run our classes. So it is a very interactive mode and very experiential hands-on mode, particularly in engineering, because we can do that. Is that, in most of our classes, we do not just rely on lectures and leave the students on their own. Um, Most of our classes is a combination of lecture and hands-on work. Even in classes like mathematics, students are, taught the concept, and then the teacher allots time in the class for the students to work on problems. So the students would work in groups on problems in the classroom, and the teacher would go around coaching them, answering questions. And this comes from a concept called flipped classroom, where the homework is made becomes the classwork, and the classwork becomes the homework. Typically in the classes, in old-fashioned classes, people, somebody comes and lectures and solves the most easy problem in the book and goes away, and the harder problems are assigned for homework. And that is the perpetual complaint of students. I know that because we do that all the time. So we have done that in the past. But the idea of the flipped classroom is, you get the students to work in front of the teacher. The teacher now becomes more of a coach or a personal friend, or somebody who handholds you through the difficulties. So the mode here is much more looking at the growth and development of the student, rather than, okay, I will set an exam that nobody will pass, and let's see how good you are. So it is that mode, which is the traditional mode, is called, like, filtering people out. Like, you take people and see who survives. It's not about making sure that every student with every ability actually achieves or gets to a point where they are successful. I personally do something called competency-based grading, which is, I teach many of the foundational engineering classes. So in those classes, particularly, you again, in traditional modes, students are given an exam, and then we move on. Like, we cover new material. We never come back and say, by the way, you didn't do well in the exam. Can you actually learn this material and improve? So competency-based grading is based on that, that you give them opportunities to improve and improve their grade. And, this comes from the basic idea that if you're learning to play, some game, or if you are learning driving, you don't stop and move on, after, having not learned it, or learned it like poorly. Like, driving is a classic example. You don't get to pass the driving test until you actually learn how to drive. And it may take a few days for some people. It may take a little longer time for people. So we believe that everybody is able to do that. So our classroom experience is structured around that. It is structured around growth. And in engineering, because it involves a lot of design, a lot of creative thinking, etc. So we again use the classroom to do that. So it's a mixture of a little bit of instruction, which could be in the lecture form, and then, classroom work, active work. So essentially, we try to get the students to do active learning rather than passive learning, which is sitting in the classroom and listening to somebody talk.
And what is the value of a student getting to know their professor? There's a lot of students we work with who are transfers from big universities, those state institutions.
Mm-hmm.
They never get to meet a professor until their third year, fourth year. What's the difference at UDM that you get to know your professor? How does that help a student?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, that's a great question. So in larger programs where your freshman class size maybe is 300, 400, Okay. So there is the way those classes are taught are, a professor comes and the professor, you need a pair of binoculars to probably see the professor because you're in a large classroom. And then, they sit around, the students sit, and naturally most students want to sit at the back. They go and sit at the back and they listen to the professor. The professor goes away, and there is an army of TAs who are graduate students, teaching assistants, and who are a lot of times they are grading your work, and a lot of times they are also holding office hours, so you can go and ask them questions. And without naming any particular program like that, without naming names, I have had, friends' children go to many of these programs, and they have complained that they are maybe taking the, computer programming the first time, the first course. And that is a classic course where students have a lot of questions because in programming you get stuck, you can't figure out. And they would stand in line in front of the TA's office for office hours. And, the office hour would be over. Maybe it's an hour or hour and a half, and there are like 50 students standing in line. You are maybe 45th in the line, and you never actually go in to get help, and you're wasting so much time. So that is the kind of experience. Many students are able to thrive in that situation because they will probably be successful in any program. Now, in our case, because our classes are small, we don't have any TAs teaching the class. We are teaching the class, right? And I am in there, within the first week, I get to know each student. I quickly figure out their work habits, who doesn't want to do extra work, who is always on top of things, etc. And and through the classroom interaction, I'm able to, or my colleagues are able to know every student, and we see them in the hallway. My office and the classes are in the same building. These students are going from class to class. So it is very hard to hide in our situation because the students, even if they want to, it's very hard for them. And because we are giving them work to do in the classroom, we can figure out fairly quickly. Now, the students, therefore, they learn how to get help from us. Essentially, we have this thing called the open door policy, which is like anytime I'm there, I'm available. I'll drop everything to, the students come first. So anytime I'm there, I'll drop everything if you come to ask questions, and we can have a conversation. So the students learn fairly quickly that they actually, learn more from those interactions than just sitting and listening in the classroom. And sometimes we feel that our students, they actually don't make enough use of this. They could actually make more use of this. Also, some students, they are pretty good at getting help. So I have met quite often help students in other classes. Like, that's not my class, but I'm available. The student knows me, they come over. So the relationship between, faculty and student is very, very close as a result of that.
And as a international teacher yourself, so you
Yes.
came over and you started teaching at UDM. If I'm an international student, do I have to worry that I'm coming into basically an unknown country, unknown place, that this is going to be a complete struggle for me to adapt, that I'm not necessarily going to be welcome? Do I have to worry about those things at UDM? I know a lot of
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not, because we not only are we experienced about working with international students, we also know, like if the student is having a difficulty in a certain area, which is not academic, which is something I cannot directly help, but as soon as we find out, we connect the student to the right people on campus who would be able to help because we know who they are. We can make a phone call and say, I'm sending this such and such student, and the student is going to go and get the particular help. So once again, earlier I said, we are focused on the growth of the entire person as well. So we are much more cognizant about what is happening to the students as a whole, rather than just about their academic or intellectual growth. The student will find a very, very friendly place where anybody they ask for help or any issue that is going on, they will find some help with that. And we actually watch out for them. Even in the area of academics, we have committees and set up processes which sort of tracks the student during the semester, particularly when they're at the early stages at the university. We track the students, and then we look at students who are struggling and reach out to them, actively before even the student comes to us and say, "Hey, what's going on? Can we help?" Or what is the challenge? And a lot of times it is a fairly easy fix for us because of our experience with similar things. A student may feel very overwhelmed. So one of the things I always encourage every student who comes here, international, domestic, is to ask for help, because you cannot do it alone. Okay. And do not think that this is some kind of a test of tenacity or anything like that. It is a learning process, and we want to make sure it is the most comfortable learning process for everyone.
Wonderful. So as a teacher who does engineering yourself, you're a professor in engineering, you will be teaching kind of that component of the coursework for this UDM summer program. For many students, this might actually be their first course in engineering, as most of them are high schoolers.
Yeah.
Could you shed a little bit of light on that program, what it's going to look like, what they're going to be learning, and what the coursework will be?
Right. The students, the best my understanding, the summer program, and Abby, you can fill in wherever I have my gap in understanding. But it is a 2-week summer program, and there are a number of courses that are listed, so the students get to choose out of these courses. And let me read out what the courses are. So the courses are, there's one on Foundations of Cybersecurity. There is Introduction to Programming 1. Then there is one on Leadership and the Neuroscience of Resilience. As well as there are 2 courses. So if you look at the title, the first 2, the Foundations of Security, which is basically computer security. And the second one is Introduction to Programming, which are in the area of computer science and cybersecurity. Then the third one is in the neurosciences area. And there are 2 more courses which are much more of traditional engineering, or it actually transcends disciplines. So one of them is Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Creative Thinking, which is a very, very exciting course. I'll come and talk to you a little bit about that one. And then the other one is themed around, building robots, building mobile robots using hardware. So it is using Arduino, which is a platform, and building robots. And this is a class that I have taught in China myself for over a week. But in this particular case, one of my colleagues is scheduled to teach this class. And then the innovation, entrepreneurship, and creative problem solving. That is a very exciting class. It teaches how to define problems, how to find problems, how to define problems, and then find creative solutions to that. One of the things that is lacking in many programs or many engineering curriculum is problem definition. Engineers are trained to solve problems that they have been assigned. Okay, so somebody, your boss, your teacher comes and assigns you a problem, and you learn how to solve it. Majority of engineering curriculum are structured to do that. but defining the problem, finding the problem, is a special skill, and people think that only the classic example is gravity existed before Isaac Newton, but how come he asked the question, and we attribute it towards Isaac Newton was a genius and nobody can be like him. That is absolutely true, but it is a different kind of mindset. He asked that fundamental question. Can we teach people how to ask those questions? So this particular course is around that, and it's taught by two of my colleagues in my department who are experts in this area and who have offered this workshop not only for students, but they have done it for companies. They have done it internationally. They've done it in India, in several companies. They've done in South Asia, in Australia. So they're very well known in this particular field, and it is a very exciting, enjoyable experience. So I talked about two of those, and then the other two that I know well and very well is in the cybersecurity area, which is we have the Center for Cybersecurity, Center of Excellence. So this is the federal government funded cybersecurity center. In fact, one of our state senators, Gary Peters, you would know them. They know him. He was on campus visiting the center about 2.5 weeks ago, and they are at this point, conversation is going on between government entities and us about raising the stature of this center. So this course is sort of an introduction to cybersecurity. Some of the people who work there would be bringing it at a level that would be exciting for new students or for young people. And then the programming class is intro to programming. If it's kind of the first programming class, you learn how to think logically, as logically as the computer. So those are the four. The neuroscience class is something I don't know much about, but there is a description, and so currently those are the offerings. And I believe, Abby, you can fill in, how they would be choosing between classes and what else is happening.
Yes, so thank you for that overview, Dr. Das. The students, when you enroll in the summer program, you'll have the opportunity to indicate which field that you wanted to pursue in the summer institute. So we will be offering courses like Dr. Das mentioned in engineering, like an innovation and product design course. But we'll also have courses in cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and business. And we'll also have one in design too. So when you are enrolling in the summer program, you'll indicate which course that you feel like pursuing in the summer program, and you'll be placed in one of those 5 subjects. So you'll spend the 2 weeks from June 16th to June 30th in these classes. The design component is with a different partner institution. It's called the College Creative Studies. It's a world-class institution also in Detroit, and you will be in their product design labs. So you will be not on the University of Detroit Mercy campus, you'll be bused to their campus, which is about 15 minutes away, and you'll be working in their labs all day, and then you'll be bused back to the University of Detroit Mercy after for dinner and evening activities. So there's really this program is quite innovative, and there's something for every student, whether you're interested in business or cybersecurity. We really we're going to be pulling in a lot of different companies to speak with the students as well. We'll have 15 different companies from the International Automotive Hall of Fame, and they'll be putting on different events for the students, networking events, internship fairs. So you'll be able to actually speak with industry leaders and get a glimpse into what career options are available to you. As Sheila, there there are over 300,000 300,000 different positions open in the mobility sector in the United States. And so this program is really going to give you a jump start into, starting to think about how you might break into some of these fields. And so through the different coursework and the exposure to the Automotive Hall of Fame, you'll definitely get a lot of valuable experience out of this program.
Wonderful. And let me ask this. This is a question I get very regularly from students. So you were mentioning some other activities outside the classroom. So if I'm a student flying all the way to the US for 2 weeks, I don't have to worry that I'm going to be spending my entire day from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep inside a lecture hall, do I? Or are there other things that we will be doing when we're at these programs in the US?
Yeah, so typically the day will be set up around 9, you'll go to breakfast, and then from at 8 you'll go to breakfast, and then 9 to noon about you'll be in your seminar class. So that's when you'll be working with the faculty, doing your product design or whatever sector you decide to go into. And then afternoon, you'll be relieved from class, and we'll have different afternoon activities. You'll go to lunch. So some activities might be kind of recreational, like a sport, or, some days we'll be doing tours of Detroit. Detroit has a really rich history, especially in the automotive industry. It's a very old city. It used to be referred to as the Paris of the US. So there's a lot of beautiful architecture and just a very interesting history that you'll be able to learn all about. In addition, the Automotive Hall of Fame, who is kind of marqueeing this summer institute, will be putting on various events for the students. So there will be keynote speakers from companies like Google, Tesla, different banking entities. So you'll really get a wide view of what the mobility sector offers. You'll have the internship fair where the 15 companies will have different panels and booths, and you'll be able to actually meet and kind of network with these industry experts. You'll go on tours of not only the city of Detroit, but also different automotive plants, and kind of get a back end view of what goes into the production. The other college, the College for Creative Studies, they're the number one institution for automotive design in the United States. And so we're lucky enough to be partnering with them to put this summer program on. And they will be doing a sketch competition at this, it's called the Michigan Central. It's this old train station in the heart of Detroit, and it was built by the same architect who built the Grand Central Station in New York City. And so they've kind of recently been reviving this to make it a hub for innovation and startup companies. And so at that venue, the College for Creative Studies will be doing a sketch competition where students will be working together, and will have the opportunity to propose their ideas to a panel of judges and receive feedback. So there's lots of different, fun, exciting opportunities outside of the classroom that students will get the experience to have. You're muted, Jake.
You're muted.
Oh, I thought I clicked the unmute button. That's wonderful. I'm excited to know that I don't have to sit in the classroom all day long, but that I get adequate amount of time to learn. And it sounds like some hands-on learning, whether that be building robots or business or leadership seminar, whatever that is. So that's wonderful. Dr. Doss, I have a question for you. Would you be able to talk about, and parents and students, you were mentioning this, kind of the culture in India and culture anywhere for students looking for higher education. Students, parents want to know that where they're sending their child, whatever program they're going into, is reputable and that students from that program are going on to do great things. Are you
Yes.
able to talk a little bit about the engineering program at UDM and what students are accomplishing from that, what kind of accreditation that has, everything like that?
Absolutely. I'll talk about that. But before that, I just want to make make an observation that I had a thought as I was listening to Abby describe the summer program, and I wish I was myself participating in that program as a student, because that sounds very exciting. Not only visiting the places in Detroit that she mentioned, I've visited many of them myself and enjoyed, as well as the kind of experience that you will get in the classroom, and very importantly outside the classroom. Those meetings, listening to inspiring talks, getting feedback from people, as well as doing fun activities. So, I wish I was a young person and joining this myself. Um, Coming back to your question, you've asked a very important question. Our engineering program was started in 1911, the university started in 1857, so it's quite a while ago. And the engineering program is over 100 years old. And there are two features in the engineering program that I would start commenting about and then expand to other things. One of them is the mandatory co-op program, which is like since its inception in 1911, because Detroit has always been very closely connected with the engineering industry. It's in its history, the origin of the automobile, it's still very, if I'm not mistaken, the greater Detroit area has the largest concentration of engineers in the country. And where even considering Silicon Valley, perhaps. So we have a long engineering history as both an institution in connection to the industry. And since 1911, since the inception, our program is a mandatory co-op program, which is, let me explain that a little bit, which means that our students get to work in industry for 3 semesters before they graduate. And that is a very valuable part of the program. And in other universities, that is not part of the program. Students get the opportunity because some students who want to do internships, they would find, but not everybody does it, and not everybody is required to do it. Here, we make sure that everybody does it. Every student gets that experience. Now, that experience is extremely valuable beyond what you learn in the classroom or the grades you get, because you learn how to, in person and hands-on, you learn how to work with other people. You will learn how to work on engineering problems. You learn about the cultures in industry, and you get to, because you have 3 opportunities, you get the opportunity to, for example, work in a large company, such as, let's say, Ford Motor Company, or in a small company. And then the challenges are very different. When I talk to students about their experience, in large companies, they have a very organized co-op program, so the students go in and they are well scheduled and they get, very good experience, but it is all, kind of decided ahead of time. They will do this, work with this person. In a small company, the experience is sometimes the opposite of that, because they go in and then they deal with whatever happens that day. Now, both those experiences are extremely valuable for the student, because sometimes you're fighting fire because things are not working right. And sometimes you want organization and interaction and working with people. So the students, what I'm trying to convey is that our students, when they graduate, they get all these experience behind them, and they're extremely mature. As a result of that, as an outcome, students are almost always graduating with multiple job offers in hand. Okay. And that is extremely, that's one of the measures why, our school was ranked so highly in this Wall Street Journal poll, or survey, because we are showing as an institution very excellent outcomes. Okay. Now, that is about every student who graduates through our program. Now, many of our alumni go on to work in the automotive industry. That's just because we are in Southeast Michigan. Automotive industry is the biggest employer in this area, and we have had, in the recent times, over the last, let's say, 25 years, we have had several CEOs of Ford Motor Company who are our graduates. We have plenty of, chief engineers, both in General Motors, in Ford, and formerly Chrysler, which is a different name right now. So these are the big three automotive companies. So we get, for our size, we get an exceptional number of people who are in leadership positions in the automotive industry, okay, and in other industries. We have students working in Tesla. Many students want to work outside of the state, and they go on to do great things at other places also. In fact, the person in Ford, and he has recently passed away, Dr. Haran Gandhi, who is the sort of the inventor of the exhaust system, how to manage the exhaust gases in the cars, and he's the inventor of that in Ford Motor Company. He was our former graduate. He did PhD at our program. Many years ago, he came as an international student to our program, and he went on to work for Ford Motor Company. And his invention is patented, and every car company uses that in their exhaust systems. So, he unfortunately passed away from cancer a few years ago, but I knew him personally. So these are some examples of our former students going on to do great things. Okay. So we take particular pride in the fact that we graduate excellent engineers who do real engineering in the workplace. Not like me, who end up teaching other people, but these are engineers doing, a majority of our engineers are almost always going and working and doing great things out in the industry. So that is a quick summary of our program. Was there any other question in your question, Jacob?
Oh, no, that was wonderful. I think that's really interesting. A lot of students will struggle to find whether that's summer internships or summer programs or programs right out of college. It's amazing to me that UDM requires, a co-op.
Right.
You have students going into those programs. That is something unique that I haven't heard of before.
Yes. There are only a few programs across the country which do that, and we are one of them. And we particularly take pride in the fact that it was that way from the day the program was started. It's like since 1911 it was and we still continue that. That is, and we all know that is an extremely valuable piece of the entire program.
And so all your students are graduating with those hands-on skills.
Yes.
They're graduating with proven experience. That's amazing. And your students, do they feel like they have international opportunities? I know we have a lot of students from India who come over, but plan at some point to go back to India or somewhere else to work. Is that an international possibility for them?
Yes, there is. In fact, one of the challenges traditionally have been that because our domestic students, those who come from this area, they in their summer months they go and work in industry, and quite often it's local industry. But sometimes, especially if the student is interested in going internationally, they get the opportunities to go through larger companies which have international establishments. So one of my former students ended up doing his first co-op in Germany, and then he it so happened that when he graduated, he took employment with the same company, and he spent most of his working years in Germany, and he keeps traveling back and forth. So that is a domestic student. But when we get international students, the students can go back and for example, students from India, especially in their first co-op, if they want to go back and work in India because they want to stay close to the family, by all means they can do that. So that's not a problem. We are starting on a different note. We have partnership with the French university, ECAM. It's actually ICAM is the name. I mean, it's the acronym. So we currently have 4 of their students taking classes here. 2 of them are in my class, and that's why I know them very well. So their students have come here, and this summer we are working on sending some of our students to ECAM in France to spend a few weeks there. So that's sort of an exchange program mode, which is a great experience. So if some of the students coming from India would like to do that, when they're students here, that's also an opportunity they can make use of.
Well, that's amazing. So students are getting hands-on experience, international opportunities,
Yes.
experiential learning in the classroom, small class sizes. Sounds like a wonderful program. Like you were saying earlier, these were not programs I had access to as far as I knew when I was that age, and I wish I didn't. I really do.
Yes.
I may not be an engineer, but this might have made me one. So let me
Yes.
ask you this, Dr. Dawson. I always kind of like to end with these 2 questions. We know you're a busy person, so I don't want to keep you all day, but do you have anything left? I always like to ask because sometimes I blow past things, or panelists remember something and they think it later. Is there anything that we skipped over that you'd like to talk more about that you've been sitting here pondering on?
No, nothing particular. There's I want to address one thing because I'm from India and I know the culture, the academic culture in India, and the mindset of students and parents in India. So I want to address one issue that I can't name this, but you will understand, or they will understand when I talk about this. Students in India and student in the Indian culture, even I used to think like that myself. So I'm not saying that I'm different. Are Because it's a very highly competitive academic environment. People are naturally very fixated on grades, as well as degrees and certificates and things like that. It's the only measure people are interested in, or rightfully so, because that measure is used everywhere. You're being used. People look at grades, and when they are you're trying to get employment, people look at whether they have a degree or not. And from my many years of experience, one thing I would like people to consider is the experience. Okay, and it's not what is on paper, but what you actually did and what you actually experienced. That in the long run and in the greater, in a bigger picture way, is a lot more important. Okay, and in the real world, your grades or the numbers actually take you that far, but it is that variety of experience, that interaction with a lot of people. What were you exposed to? What did you do? What did you learn? And what would you do with that experience? That is very, very important and very enriching. So I would encourage people to think in terms of those, along with what do you get out of this in terms of scores and points and grades, and et cetera, et cetera. So that I'm a parent. I know a lot of young people, and I have seen a lot of people grow through systems, and that is something that is a long-lasting aspect of any experience. So that's what I wanted to convey. because we are always fixated on what is on paper and what is written down, or what is the grade, particularly numbers and grades.
I have found that working over there too. I feel bad sometimes. Just the sheer number of students and the testing and the exam.
It's all become a huge competition. Yes.
It's an awesome opportunity that they have this to come over and to experience this hands-on, not have
Yes.
to worry about all the exams and the testing, but get the real skills without having to
Yes.
focus on that.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Doss, I always like to end with this question. This is my favorite question. If you are a student on the edge and you're sitting over there in India, you're a ninth grader or a 10th grader or an 11th grader, whatever it is, and you're wondering, is this worth my summer? Is this worth my time? Should I fly all the way to the US, go through the visa process, all the trouble, put myself out there to come to this program? What would you tell that student?
I would say absolutely. I actually kind of answered that by expressing earlier that I would have loved to do this myself if I was a young person, if this was an opportunity. And in this day and age, there may be concerns people have, just because they will be far away from home. But in this day and age, you are connected. If you have your phone with you, you're connected with the rest of the world. And you can contact your parents and family all the time if that is your concern. But anytime you do a program like this, you are, again, from a very practical perspective. Anytime you're doing a program like this, you're setting yourself apart from the other people that you are competing with, right? The next person in your class will not have this experience, whereas you will be. Also think in those terms that you will have this international experience, interacting with people, doing things in the classroom with other students that you didn't know before, or maybe one or two and then the rest. So you will get to know a lot of people from different parts of the world. You will know how people think. You will learn about different cultures. You will learn about, in 15 days, you will learn so much in a fun way, that you will not be able to learn from any lecture that in any class that gives you. So I would do this in a heartbeat. And as I said, I wish I was a young person, and this was an opportunity that I came across. So that is my answer to that question.
Wonderful. And Abby, am I missing anything?
I don't think so. Nope.
Well, perfect. Well, we know you're extremely busy. The engineering world never sleeps, as you were telling us last night, working 9:30, 10 o'clock on projects with students. That is the kind of MCA model for our schools, is that our teachers never stop helping young students develop into the people they want to be. We want to thank Dr. Doss for being with us here today. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your time, and I'm sure many students are going to be excited to see you this June. For any students who are still on, we are putting the link. If you didn't see, there's the link in the chat, but I will throw it up there one more time. And if you're interested in joining us and Dr. Doss and UDM and their staff this summer in June for 2 weeks, we would love to see you there. Even if you're not sure yet and you're still on the fence, just sign up and we will help answer any questions, concerns you may have. We want to thank everyone for being here. We know it's late at night. We know a lot of you have exams going on. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Doss, for being here. And with that, I will leave this link up and I will stay on for a couple more moments for any student who is still looking to sign up. But otherwise, we want to thank you all, and we hope you have a great night.
Thank you very much. And it was great talking to all of you, the students and parents who are online. And we would love to see you here in summer and in future, as full-time students as well.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Bye.